And we are live. Hello again to everybody
Hello.
watching. Hi, Shuli. I'm here with Shuli today. And we're gonna dive right in. Shuli, if you could just please introduce yourself, give a bit of background about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Shuli. I was born and raised in LA. Lived for a year in France between LA and then moving to Israel. Now I'm a master's student in machine learning and data science under the computer science faculty at IDC Herzliya. And after getting my bachelor's in computer science, and I'm also a frontal teaching assistant. So I teach a couple of classes for the bachelor's and master's degree. Um, that's where I'm at now. We'll go into later how I how I got here.
Okay, cool. No, that's good for me. So, how did you get there? Go on.
Okay,
Uh,
so my background was that I was raised in kind of like a family. When you say religious in Israel, at least, like people have kind of one image of what it looks like, and my parents founded a kind of something between reform and conservative congregation, a Jewish congregation in Los Angeles, a couple weeks before I was born. So I was really raised in that community and in that a little bit of a family business. There was, a lot to do, and every extra pair of hands were always kept busy. And I benefited a lot from being raised in a spiritual home. It came with infinite benefits and with its own unique kind of hardships and challenges as well. But basically, this is all to say that I had a very strong humanities background. So I felt very comfortable and at home with philosophy and ethics and exploring religions and law and things of that sort. And when I moved to Israel and served in IDF's military intelligence, I got exposed to all of the technological efforts and trainings that a lot of my like soldier colleagues had gone through, and it was very clear to me how much of an asset they were. The soldiers that had kind of the more technological jobs and had the technological trainings, and that kind of turned me onto the path of computer science, because it just became clear to me that it was a very kind of a safe decision for sure. And also I was just really curious about it. There was like this whole world that I had never been in on, and that people seemed to really value. And there was something in me that was like, I gotta go study this thing. Like, what is this whole topic that the whole world seems to be dependent on and need, and really values people that learn it? And I just got to know what everyone is on about. So this was my mentality going into it. Um, Although I knew that in Israel, I would already be at a disadvantage, like already in the bachelor's degree, first step into the computer science world, I'd already be at a disadvantage because in Israel, a lot of people that go into this degree are already after having some technological background in the army. And not only, there's also a lot of people that just kind of picked it up as kids or through gaming and things like that, which is kind of similar to the rest of the world. And but I decided that it was worth a shot, and that maybe it's at a stage where I can still bridge the gap or whatever kind of disadvantage I would be at. And I had a very open discussion about it with my parents. Were super supportive, shocked that I decided to go to the computer science route, because I was, bound for like lawyer or some kind of advertising executive or something that had more to do with people and communication. Um, we talked about it, and I told them that I think that it's a very worthwhile degree to pursue, regardless of what field I would end up working in. But that I have no idea if I can actually do it. And it's extremely rigorous and is notoriously known for weeding out more than 50% of its students within the first year. Um, and since they were paying for my education, it was really important for me that they knew that it was a total risk that I might either fail out of my first year, or even feel that it's just way too hard and doesn't make me happy, and that I don't see myself doing it, and I might even want to change majors. And And they were luckily very supportive of me, really appreciative also of that I was willing to even try for this harder task. I think they were really proud of that, even though they knew that I had other options that would be much easier for me and I would be very successful at. And so it's kind of a family decision for me to go into this, and it felt very good to have their support. But it was the first time in my life that I remember that although I had their support, I I didn't feel, it might not have been true, but I didn't feel that I had their um like their blind confidence in my success. I think that it caught them off guard that I decided to go for computer science, and because it's something that they had no interaction with or familiarity with, they actually couldn't tell 100% if I would succeed or not. And this was one of the first times that I sensed, whether it was there or not, that I sensed hesitation before my parents would say like, yeah, you can do it. And I remember for the first time, and I had talked about this with my parents since then. I think one of them denies it, and one of them is like, yeah, I didn't know if you could do it. But basically, I had this moment. I don't know if we probably all have a few moments that we can point to that we felt that we made like a small step into adulthood, or somewhere where our maturity shifted a little. And I think that was one of them when I realized that for the first time, I wasn't getting the kind of blind and 100% confident cheering on that I was used to in my other endeavors. And that although they wanted me to do it, they didn't necessarily know 100% that I would be amazing. And so I suddenly, for the first time, had to call on myself to give myself this confidence and this assurance, and realize that uh, that actually I'm all I have to make this successful. They're not going to be able to help me with my homework or proof my essays, because I didn't have any essays to write in this whole in this whole degree. Um, and it was actually a really good foreshadowing to how the degree would end up. Because at the end of the day, I did eventually learn how to build a support system that I needed, and get the help that I needed to do well. But at the end of the day, it really was, myself that got me through it. I had to, recognize what I needed to do and where to get it from, and no one was going to push me to do it. Not really, other than myself. No one could make that decision for me. So deciding to go into the degree was the first time that I realized that, like, okay, I'm gonna be on my own here, more or less. And it was actually really thrilling, because I wasn't used to not knowing if I'd be able to make it, which might come off a little bit arrogant or something, but it also might come off as someone that always stayed in her comfort zone, or whatever. So however people choose to interpret it is their own thing. But I decided to make that decision, although with this kind of like disclaimer in my head of maybe I won't make it, we're just gonna kind of see how it goes. And and it didn't go very well. It didn't go very well the first year. I mean, obviously depends on what kind of parameters you're using to measure success. Clearly there's a happy ending to this story, at least where it stands now. But I guess I'll just jump right into kind of how the first year went. Just for those listening, because I mean you know a little bit already about how this goes, but just to give kind of an overview. So I mean, I had no tech background. It looks like a good idea and like a good investment in my future, and also I kind of like this challenge. I kind of like this underdog thing. I like this testing my limits thing, which brought me to this environment and this specific challenge. And then I went through a year of not really believing myself, not really being committed, being afraid to fully commit, because if I fully committed and failed, then that's a lot more painful than not having committed and failed. Um, and then I did go through this kind of mindset shift, and I made a bunch of decisions And I had to really, look inside and decide for myself, what do I want? What do I need to get there? And how do I get it? And I made all those changes, and I completely turned it around. Now that's not to say that like I was a secret computer genius this whole time and didn't know. You know what I mean? So it's important for me, especially for women, to know that computer science, and I am convinced that the sciences in general, it's not something that's reserved, first of all, for men. Let that be clear. And second of all, definitely not just for computer geeks, people that grew up gaming and programming, and these like indoor introvert, don't know how to communicate with people, only know how to communicate with computers kind of types. And actually, so that's actually also something that I'm hoping a lot of people will get out of this, is also from the transformation, like the really active and conscious transformation that I went through, between making the decision to sign up for the degree and then actually making the decision to succeed or at least try to succeed in the degree. So these are the tools that I'm really happy to share right now with you and everyone that's listening. And beyond that is that it can be applied to a lot of other things that I hope that we can all become a lot more aware of, these glass ceilings that we put for ourselves, that society puts for us, whatever, it doesn't matter, but they're there. And the more that I become aware of them, the more it energizes me to like bust them open, violently and whatever. So I guess now I'll kind of go into like really the mechanics of what I went through that first year to kind of turn things around for me. And so what it looked like the first year, first of all, was a completely male dominated class. We were like there were two other girls in the class, and one of them got engaged over spring break and then quit the degree. And she
Wow.
was actually probably one of the smartest people in the entire class. She was like a bona fide genius, and couldn't stick with things, like she started a biology degree at Tel Aviv before, then decided to try computer science, and got engaged and started having babies, and just didn't find herself in kind of like the academic, task. And I'm super happy for her, that she's happy and doing what she, wanted. But okay, so this environment was really male dominated, which I'm actually pretty comfortable with. I didn't actively feel like I'm disadvantaged or something, but I think that it did contribute to my I don't belong here-ness. I don't know if some type of imposter syndrome there. I was accepted into the program on condition, like of passing some kind of mechina course, or passing like our first calculus course and our first linear algebra course and things like that. So I did have this kind of cloud hanging over me of, okay, I'm still not fully in. I still haven't been fully really accepted. I'm like giving a chance to prove myself, but I'm not really fully accepted yet. Now, keeping this in mind, knowing that my math skills are rusty as hell, I knew that what's special about me, what I see as like my skills and things that like are Shuli, positive, are like my people skills, my level of comfort with authority, and with faculty members, because both my parents have been educators their whole lives, in all kinds of environments, including universities. And I have good leadership skills and good organization and everything. And when our class was first greeted by like student union representatives and saying that every class is supposed to have student representatives, somehow we were less than 1 week into the program, and already when those reps came into the classroom and they said, okay, so who here should be a representative, literally the entire class was like, that girl. That girl is gonna do it. And I didn't even know most of their names, and I was like, okay, it's true. Like, all right, I'll do it. And I realized that this was actually not, I mean, okay, it's true that I might be one of the people with the best skills out of everyone in the classroom to do this job of coordinating things with faculty, expressing class concerns, just handling any kind of issues that would come up. But I knew they would also really come in handy for me to foster personal relationships with the professors, especially if I don't meet my admissions requirements. So I knew that, let's say I fail some exam or don't do so well or whatever, I was like already preparing for this worst case of not meeting the requirements, knowing that it'll be super useful to have a personal relationship with the professors, not to have them accept me because they like me and know me, but rather that they would know the things about me that would warrant keeping me in the program, which is that I'm a hard worker and that I'm dedicated and I'm an asset and that I'm smart enough to do it if I get, just like a little bit guidance and patience and whatever it is. So
Very,
there's
very good example of working with your strengths. Knowing
exactly.
yourself, knowing what you are good at and what your strengths are,
Right.
and that will okay. Sorry, continue.
Absolutely. No, it's I'm glad that you wanted to like anchor in on that a little bit, because it's a delicate thing to do. On one hand, I love my strengths, and I think that they're what make me me, and I love using these strengths also. And on the other hand, I do experience this battle of just, I mean, spoiler alert is that it worked. I didn't end up meeting my my acceptance requirements. I failed those couple of classes that I was supposed to pass, and I ended up having a couple meetings with the dean where I really like pitched to her what my new plan was, what changes I was going to make, why she should let me in, and all those kinds of things, which was very gratifying. But it does leave me in a place like, okay, I know that these are my strengths. And so these are the tools that I have to work with. I know what I need to work on, but it does still feed that imposter syndrome monster of, I'm not here for the right reasons. Everyone else is
Mm,
here because they got accepted for their math score and their programming score and whatever. And I'm here because of my charisma and forward thinking and strategic thinking and whatever, not computer science stuff. So, and this is something that's an ongoing thing for me, that my boyfriend, my partner has been a great soundboard for, because it comes in ups and downs. I thrive on, okay, how do I use my tools to get into the situation I want or out of the situation I don't want, and I thrive off of that energy and that creativity. And then sometimes I experience lows of, but those weren't the tools I was supposed to use to get here.
mm,
And I sometimes struggle with, like, should I, everyone else got here because of X and I got here because of Y. And it's true that the people responsible, it's their decision, but it still leaves me a little bit with thinking like, maybe I don't belong here in the end. um and then I always have to do the work of getting back to the right mindset in order to succeed, because if you let yourself sink into that too much, then you're not going to go anywhere good. And if you do it too often, you need to explore that, well, maybe you don't really want to be here if you keep engaging in these thoughts and these processes that make you feel that you shouldn't be here. um, and so the way that I come back out of that is a few things. One is actually relinquishing responsibility, meaning like it wasn't my decision to accept me into the program. There's like a whole acceptance committee and like a board and faculty members and professors that know me, that they interview and whatever it is. So first of all, it's not my fault. Let's say worst case, I don't belong here and someone up there made a mistake. It wasn't my fault. A lot of people apply, right? A lot of people don't belong that don't get accepted, and some people do get accepted, and it's not my fault if I accidentally got accepted. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, just because the traditional or conventional or standard reasons that someone be let into this program is their math or computer or whatever other kind of hard skills, that doesn't mean that it's the only thing that they're looking for. What an institution is really looking for is, especially an educational institution, what I've come to learn at least, is someone who will take advantage of what the institution is putting forth to them, and enjoy it and respect it and do with it something that will make that institution proud, and appreciate what that institution has given to them. So there are many candidates that maybe have better math, computer science, whatever scores than I do, but that don't really give a shit about what the institution does for them or what efforts the professors make for them, and don't really care about contributing back to the institution or the program or mentoring forward into the next class. Um, and and that's a candidate that isn't necessarily, well, it's certainly not the only thing the institution is looking for, right? I mean, it's no secret that every academic institution is going to want a couple of those geniuses that then can go on and, I don't know, win a Nobel Prize or something. And you look at their academic record and, oh my gosh, I do see, computer science. That's always nice. But that's not the only thing that you want. At the end of the day, to get anything done, you do need to work with people, and you do need people to want to work with you and to want to support you and all those kinds of things. And there is, if I may toot my own horn a little bit, there is no one that's more pleasant to work with than me, and that's more supportive of other people that work with than me. I'm one of those people that I really get my kicks from helping the people around me and supporting also the collective effort of whatever group I'm in, and also the individual effort of whatever group I'm in. And it's not unique to me. I seek out other people like this. A lot of my closest friends are huge cheerleaders, in all the areas of their lives. Both my parents are like this. Both my parents are super supportive. My mom is one of those people that's like a total visionary and can make anything come to life, whether it's for herself or for someone else. And so when I remind myself that, okay, so an institution, right, there's the requirements that's on the website, for people to apply. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the only thing that they're looking for. And so when I put those two things together of, okay, worst case, I don't belong here, it's not my fault. I can make the best out of it for as long as I want to. If that changes, like if I don't want to be here for some reason, then that's another thing to address, when that becomes clear. In the better case that I do belong here, I do belong here, not necessarily for the same reasons that everyone else belongs here. I have some kind of added value, something that other conventional candidates don't necessarily bring to the table. And I do recognize that value. So that's a dance that I've done, that I've gone back and forth with all the time, because as stable and happy and confident and whatever work we do, it doesn't last forever. We need to re-earn it, almost every day or every week or every month, whatever it is.
But I
So
think
that's
what you touched upon there,
mm-hmm,
is that if people get sucked into the imposter syndrome or feeling I don't belong because they're comparing, and they're looking at what
right,
others have and that they don't have, they have something else.
right,
But what you have done, which I think is really inspiring, is you've embraced who you are. You've embraced your strengths, you've embraced your qualities, your traits. And although you do sometimes get sucked into that comparison and saying, I don't have what they do, and what does that say? What does that mean? Etc. Etc.
right,
You have the ability to, you found the ability to get yourself out of that and shift your mindset to, but this is what I bring, and that has value.
right,
And you are aware of the value that you bring, and the
right,
fact that you have been able to embrace your value and uniqueness, in your immediate surroundings, and you're unique anywhere. All of us have our own uniqueness.
right,
You've used that, and that is what has propelled you into your success.
right,
You took yourself from failure, as in the focus on what you lacked in a way, or you didn't have compared to the others, and you just flipped it 180 because you embraced your strengths and
right.
you said, this is what's going to get me forward, and this is what's getting me forward.
Right. And
And I think
that's
that's
not to
amazing.
say, yeah, and so what that did for me was calm the, because okay, so when I'm in a program, I'm one of these people that I need to be very clear on at least some of my objectives and boundaries. I'm very used to working in very like in the air kind of ambiguous assignments and requirements. Because just being a daughter of small business owners, there's a lot of things, like things aren't always very clear, and actually, because of being a daughter of small business owners, I recognize how the value that someone brings is a lot less explicit and obvious than I would think, and that's something that really helped me learn how to do that thinking of what is my value that I bring. Now, once establishing my value wasn't that was only the beginning of the work to then do what I need to do to succeed in the program. Because once you establish your value, that doesn't mean, okay, now I don't need to study for my exams. Now I don't need to get good at math and programming and everything. What that did was calm me down and to help me lock it in that, okay, I'm doing this. Because if I'm in this program, I'm not here to fail. I'm not here to waste my time and my parents' money and the efforts of people that is being invested in me, in order to not succeed in the end, in order to not learn something in the end. So that whole process that I had to do of okay, I'm here, whether it was a mistake or not, I'm here and I want to stay here. And now that I want to stay here, after I had to establish, like, okay, I bring value, it's legit that I'm here. Now that I established that, what do I need to do in order to reach my goal, right? My goal at the time being just survive this degree, just, don't fail all your classes and survive this degree. So yeah, establishing the value, that's a really nice and comforting stage, but it really is only the beginning. And once I made that decision, because what I had done was kind of try to get by with the minimum amount of effort during my first semester. I was very afraid to apply myself. I didn't even really know how. I'd never been in that much of an intensive, challenging situation. I did a little bit in the Army, but it was only for like a couple months. And it was material that was a little easier for me to digest. It wasn't like high level maths and programming and things that I had never seen before. And so in this first semester, I really didn't even know how to go about it. I was very, I think I was ashamed. I didn't like it. Other people around me seemed to kind of know what they were doing. And I didn't want to be a burden to anyone. I didn't want to hold anyone back by asking too many questions or asking for too much help. Like all of the standard things, that hold us back. And then once I went through this process, okay, and then I failed a couple exams. The first time that I failed exams in my life, and it was kind of it was a little bit of a laughable moment, because it's something that's so stressful, and then you get that fail notice, in your phone, got a 40 something on an exam. And I was like, first of all, the world did not come crashing down. Okay, that was like a first kind of sign that I needed to see, is that, okay, me failing on an exam, the world keeps on spinning. No one likes me any less. No, I don't feel like a different person. I don't suddenly have to walk around with a failure t-shirt or something. It's you don't know what you're expecting. But so I in retrospect realized that I needed to kind of feel the worst case scenario in order to have a better idea of the terrain here, and then be able to navigate and move forward. I know other people that have that, but I know a lot of people that don't have that. But I'm aware that that's something that I often have done. Let me kind of see what all the boundaries in this challenge are, and then after, I don't have to be afraid of something totally ambiguous that I have no idea what it entails or what the consequences are. But now that I have something concrete, okay, I know what failure looks like. Now I know how to go in the opposite direction. And what that entailed was, so legitimizing being in the program, deciding, understanding what failure looks like, and having a sense of, okay, I'm not going to do that again. So now I have something that I can build upon. And then the hard part of reaching for help and accepting it. So I was really lucky that I had, and I know that we're coming maybe to a little bit the end, but I'll still get in some of these important steps. So I realized that I need help. I'm a big believer in like attaching yourself to people that have the skills and the habits that you want to kind of adopt for yourself. And if you don't have people like that that are lending themselves to you, I believe that you should just go and seek them and make yourself valuable to them, whatever it is, you know, whether they're people that just like company or people that will like your humor or that you'll cook for, it doesn't matter. Okay. Because most of the time you can find someone that you can give value to, but it's your job to find that value that you can provide to them. No one owes you the opportunity, you know, to tell you how you can help them or whatever. um so I was lucky that I had people in the degree that were really kind. One friend in particular, his name is Oz, that would offer to help me a lot because I had set him up with a girl that he dated that he really liked. And so this is why he happened to
Worked out
feel
well.
kind of, not in the end, but you know, they enjoyed a few months
No, I
together.
mean for you it worked out well.
Oh yeah, for me it worked out well. I mean, yeah, for me he ended up with an impression of me like a cool girl that set him up with a friend for like no, just because I thought that they were both cool, and so he was like complimented by it and felt like he was my friend. And he saw me struggling, and I didn't accept his help most of the semester. But then after I failed in Israel, we get like 2 tries for every exam, and after I failed a couple of exams, I really didn't have anywhere else to turn. I knew that I didn't have the skills to do it on my own, whether I liked it or not. You know, I feel like I can do anything, but then I, you know, see myself fail exams and I see myself struggle studying at home alone. And I realize, okay, even let's say I can, if someone puts a gun to my head, that doesn't mean that I'm going to do it. Right. It doesn't mean that I'm actually going to step up to the plate and study for this exam. And so when I
Mhm.
have this friend who's a very good student and was offering to help me, I just swallowed my ego, which was this big, and showed up to study with him 12 to 14 hours almost every day. And it was hard. It was really hard to accept, not the hours, it was hard to accept that situation, especially in the beginning, where not he wouldn't put me on the spot on purpose to like test me and like and push me or something, but just to kind of get a sense of where I am and basic things. And you know what, maybe it was to push me, but I mean it certainly wasn't to shame me. But we would sit down and we would review some things, and even though I would tell him up front, like, listen, I don't know anything, okay, just like assume that I don't know anything. And he would write something on paper, or we would go over an exam and he would ask me what I think, and I would get it was exactly the moment I was like, oh, this is what I've always been afraid of. Not getting the fail notification on my phone. This was the moment I was afraid of, that I'd be sitting next to someone that admires me, and here I am ruining it by showing him how dumb I actually am. That he is showing me a problem, and now I'm going to have to just tell him that I don't know, even though it's probably like something from the first lecture or second lecture in the course. But I knew that even, let's say that this wasn't the only way to succeed, it's the only way that I was going to take. I didn't know what other way I was going to do alone. I didn't know what other person was going to help me. I didn't have a name of a private tutor to take. This was the option that was in front of me. So either I was going to take that, or I was going to, you know, try to find a whole bunch of other options. And I wasn't going to go look for a bunch of options that I don't know what they look like. So I took the option in front of me, and I had to sit there and, you know, get hot and red in the face and get tears in my eyes and choked up and say over and over again, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And know that I might be paying the price of, maybe, you know, maybe I will look like an idiot to this guy, you know, and maybe I'll even still fail the exam. Maybe it'll all be for nothing in the end, but I can't not give it a real shot. This was the big mind set shift that I made, is that I am not going to accept not showing up and not trying something that's in front of me to get to my goal. And it turns out that anyone can study and succeed in this. Okay, if I mean, it's not going to be easy, but you know, I sat down, I did my homework, I was a good girl, I reviewed the exams, I practiced a lot more than some other students, maybe less than you know, I there are students that I started the degree with that are only now finishing like 2 or 3 years later. So like, it doesn't matter. What the point is, that we have our skills, you know, and we have our own work to do. And once we decide that there's something we want to do and we have our skills, it's just a game of seeing like, okay, well, what can I use to get there? and what value can I bring when I need help to get there.
But
um
I think it was also swallowing your pride, asking for
Huge,
help,
huge.
not wanting to give into defeat, and not, saying, okay, so maybe I'm going to look stupid. Maybe I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly.
And that's okay, but you're not going to turn away the help that you know that you now need, admitting
Right.
that you need help. These are all huge, huge,
Yeah.
huge
That
points.
became that became my much bigger fear, would be to go to my parents, and not because it was my parents, even to just look at myself in the mirror and be like, "Okay, I failed out of this, and I didn't even try." Even when it started to become clear to me what I have to do, I didn't even try. And that became something that, like, okay, well, no. Just no, just no, because I decided, that, like, I started seeing I love the people I was studying with. I became more and more convinced that this is something that I would like to learn. Whether or not I would become like a lifelong full-time programmer or not, that's up in the air. I always saw myself kind of going for more like management or strategy, or some kind of relationships manager in high tech, where knowledge and background in computer science would be a huge asset. um, and I did become more and more of a believer in this direction. And so I wasn't going to give up just because it didn't feel good. When I had all the tools to succeed and it just didn't feel good, I was like, that's just not going to happen. And then once I reaped the success from seeing how that discomfort was the jump start to finally learning and finally getting the knowledge and the tools that I needed to succeed in the program, that's when I became, I won't go so far as saying like a failure junkie, but that's when I started really developing this super like healthy relationship with failure, and inviting kind of these opportunities, and seeing how failure really can be a shortcut to my growth, seeing how these opportunities are going to give me the stage and the playground to kind of like break out of old habits, or break the glass ceilings and develop new skills and new strengths, work muscles I didn't know I had. And that's something that I really hope that I hold on to forever. It's helped me a lot so far.
I'm sure you will, and I think that's why I did want to have you on, because I mean the group and what I do is self-healing, right?
Right,
And what you're talking about is your journey with your degree, and so how does that apply to self-healing? But you have
right,
raised some very, very relevant and vital tools and skills, um, that are super, super important for the healing process. And I think that it's only going to serve you as life, throws things at you,
thank
as
you.
it inevitably will, because life
Yeah,
does. But
totally.
you have a toolbox, and you know how to rely on yourself, how to depend on yourself. You know what tools you need,
Right,
to get you through challenges. And even more than that, you welcome or embrace a challenge, because you know that that's going to help you grow. You're going to, what you
right,
just said. And I think that is, if anything, that is what self healers, I would like to believe, want to aspire to. They want
right,
to aspire to having a toolbox that will
right.
take them through life, that will make, ensure that, make them feel that they can depend on themselves, and they can rely on themselves, and they know, what their skills are, what their values are, what
Hmm.
their value is,
Right,
um, and then to take it a step further and say, okay, when life throws me a challenge, bring it on. Like, it's going to help
totally.
me grow. That is the goal. I
Totally,
swear, that
totally.
is the
And
goal.
it's not comfortable. It's not glamorous. It's
Good.
not comfortable. It's not
Getting comfortable with
soothing. It's not
discomfort
smooth.
is a huge thing. Yes, it's a
Exactly,
huge benefit.
exactly. This is where I'm at, and it's really fun and challenging, and but super rewarding, super, super rewarding.
So
And if there's
I
anyone listening that's interested in like doing a change into STEM or something, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Like, I can help you, or we can talk about it.
100. I will put all of your, like,
Sure.
links stuff in the description, but I definitely, I I think that you're awesome, and I think
You
that
too.
it's very it's not to be taken for granted that you had this A, curiosity, and B, that you knew what your strengths were. That's huge. The amount of people
Yeah,
that I come across that don't know what their strengths are. I mean, I think it's
right.
one of the first like tests that I have in my e-guides, which is, like,
Yeah,
what are your strengths? Discover your strengths,
right,
because people just don't know.
right.
Um, so I think that that's really awesome that you know, and
Thank
that
you.
you.
I give my parents a lot of credit in that in that
It's
field, but
also incredibly awesome to hear what supportive
yeah,
parents you had, because a lot of
thank you.
self-healers didn't, and
Yeah,
I think that
totally.
it's also inspiring, because I aspire to be, a very supportive parent, and I
Absolutely.
think that I think it's just I'm very grateful for you sharing your story.
Thank you
And
so much. I'm really grateful to you. All the stories that you've been sharing have all brought real like nuggets of really brilliant insight that I've really enjoyed, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. Also, I'm really flattered.
yay, good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, it was
All
lovely
right,
talking
Julie.
to you as always.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.